At Portugal's edge, where the land crumbles into the Atlantic and winter storms awaken giants, lies Praia do Norte, home to Nazaré's legendary waves. These aren't waves, they're leviathans, rising 80 to 100 feet and crashing with the force of a falling building. Each winter, the world's boldest surfers come not to conquer, but to survive. Most do, some don't. And a few return with stories etched in salt, fear, and awe. Tales of bravery, misjudgment, and narrow escapes at the edge of the impossible. 1. Andrew Cotton and the Wipeout Heard Around the World, 2017. British surfer Andrew Cotton is no stranger to Nazaré. He's surfed its worst days, trained its walls like a gladiator, and helped put Nazaré on the map. But in November 2017, Cotton met his match. The wave came in fast, a rogue tower erupting unexpectedly. Cotton launched into it with trademark commitment, but the lip threw harder than expected. He free fell down the face, twisted midair, and was swallowed by a collapsing mountain of water. What followed was a deafening crunch. A fractured L1 vertebra. Cotton was catapulted like a rag doll, then slammed into the inside zone. Rescuers on jet skis fought raging whitewater to reach him. Miraculously, he didn't suffer paralysis. But the experience redefined his limits and respect for the sea. You realize how small you are. The wave didn't just break my back, it broke something open in me, Cotton later said. His comeback, just a year later, remains one of Nazaré's most inspiring returns. 2. Maya Gabeira's Resurrection, 2013-2020. Brazilian surfer Maya Gabeira's story isn't just about a close call, it's about dying and coming back. In October 2013, Maya attempted a wave estimated at 70 feet. She misjudged her takeoff, was swallowed whole, and was held underwater for nearly 2 minutes. When rescuers pulled her from the chaos, she was unconscious, limp, and presumed dead. She wasn't. Rushed to the hospital with a broken leg and severe trauma, Maya spent months recovering, physically and mentally. Many doubted she would return to Nazaré, let alone to big wave surfing. But Maya had other plans. In 2020, she surfed a 73.5-foot wave, setting the Guinness World Record for the biggest wave ever surfed by a woman. The same wave that nearly killed her became her stage for redemption. "I had to prove to myself I could finish what I started," she said. "I didn't come back for revenge, I came back for peace." 3rd, Antonio Laureano, the teen who faced a monster, 2020. In a world of grizzled veterans and seasoned professionals, 18-year-old Antonio Laureano wasn't expected to make headlines. But in October 2020, the Portuguese teen paddled into a beast. Witnesses watched in stunned silence as Laureano dropped into what would later be estimated at 101.4 feet, potentially breaking the all-time world record. Mid-ride, the board wobbled, the wave thickened, and Antonio nearly lost it. One misstep would have sent him into a churning death zone beneath tons of collapsing water. But somehow, he held it, narrowly. The footage, captured by drones, went viral. "I thought I was gone, but my instincts took over," Antonio said later. "It wasn't skill, it was something deeper." His escape wasn't from death, but from almost losing control of a wave few people would dare even paddle into. 4. Garrett McNamara's Ice Bath Baptism, 2011. Garrett McNamara is practically the godfather of Nazaré's modern surf scene. When he first arrived in Portugal, locals thought he was mad. The wave hadn't yet achieved global infamy. He saw something few others did. In 2011, Garrett caught what was then the largest wave ever surfed, 78 feet. But days before the record-breaking ride, during a training session, he suffered a terrifying fall. He was tossed off a rising crest and drilled into the reef shelf beneath the canyon. The impact dislocated his shoulder and knocked the wind from his lungs. The water temperature was so cold, he later described it as being punched by ice. "I couldn't breathe. I thought it was over, not from drowning, but from freezing inside out." Garrett was pulled from the water by jet ski in the nick of time. That close call didn't stop him, but it taught him how Nazaré punishes hesitation. 5. Justine Dumont's Brush with Oblivion, 2021. French surfer Justine Dumont is known for her smooth style and fearless drops. But in January 2021, a split-second mistake nearly changed everything. The wave was one of the cleanest of the day, towering, perfect, and inviting. Justine dropped in late, very late. She made the bottom turn, but the lip pitched directly over her, exploding with the force of a bomb. "I felt like I was in a car crash underwater," she said later. Justine was held down for 2 consecutive waves, an almost unthinkable scenario at Nazaré. When her safety vest finally inflated, she surfaced gasping, battered, and barely coherent. It took 3 jet skis to extract her from the inside. What made this story stand out wasn't just the survival. It was her return to the lineup that same week, bruised but smiling. 6. Alex Bautellio's Jet Ski Horror, 2020. One of Nazaré's most harrowing close calls didn't happen on a board, it happened during a rescue. In February 2020, during the Nazaré Tow Surfing Challenge, Portuguese surfer Alex Bautellio was being towed on a jet ski after a ride when 2 massive waves collided, capsizing the ski and launching him into the impact zone. Alex floated face down in the water, motionless. The scene was chaotic. Rescue teams scrambled as another set approached. For over a minute he remained unresponsive. The ocean, relentless, kept closing in. He was pulled from the water and rushed to the hospital in critical condition. Social media lit up with rumors of his death. But Bautellio survived. He suffered serious lung injuries and neurological trauma, yet miraculously made a full recovery. "I don't remember the wave. I don't remember being rescued, but I'm here," he later said. His story is a grim reminder. Even the safest part of a big wave session, the rescue, can become the most dangerous. 7. Lucas Chianka and the Double Hold Down, 2019. Brazilian charger Lucas "Chumbo" Chianka is one of the most technically brilliant big wave surfers alive. But even he couldn't outmaneuver Nazaré's chaos in February 2019. Chianka dropped into a solid 65-foot wave with surgical precision. But as he pulled into the shoulder, a backwash wave from the cliff collided mid-face, creating a freak explosion of whitewater. The impact knocked him off his board, and he was held down by the next wave, then another, a brutal 2-wave hold down. "I opened my eyes underwater and couldn't see anything. I thought, this is it," Lucas recalled. He activated his vest and began to float, but he surfaced just in time to see another wall charging toward him. This time, a jet ski reached him seconds before impact. He didn't speak for hours after being brought to shore, not out of trauma, but because his voice had been crushed out of him by the pressure. 8. Sebastian Stoidner's record and the near miss before it, 2020. German surfer Sebastian Stoidner now holds the official world record for surfing a 101.4-foot wave at Nazaré in 2020. But what few know is the terrifying wipeout he had just days before that historic ride. In a lesser documented session, Sebastian had misjudged the angle of a wave's peak. As he dropped, a chop on the face caused him to lose rail control. His board skipped, and he was catapulted into the air, slammed mid-face and sucked back over the falls. What followed was a full minute underwater, where his vest failed to inflate on the first attempt. "I was ready for blackness. I had no idea if I'd come up," he said later. That scare almost made him pull out of the contest. But 3 days later, he paddled back out and rode the biggest wave of his life. Why they keep going back. Each of these stories carries a different flavor of terror: paralysis, blackout, drowning, miscalculation, freak accidents. And yet, every one of these surfers returned. Why? For some, it's about conquering fear. For others, it's a spiritual pilgrimage, an act of surrender to nature at its most raw. But ask anyone who's surfed Nazaré, and they'll tell you the same thing. You don't conquer the wave, you survive it, and if you're lucky, you ride it with grace. Nazaré, the ocean's final exam. What makes Nazaré so uniquely deadly is the Nazaré Canyon, an underwater geological phenomenon that funnels ocean energy like a fire hose. Waves here don't just grow, they detonate. Safety teams train for months. Jet skis are equipped with sleds and emergency gear. Even photographers wear flotation vests. But it's never enough. Because at Nazaré, even the rescuers have close calls. Even the veterans get humbled. And even the most experienced, the most prepared, the most skilled, sometimes don't come home. If these stories gave you chills, hit that like button to show your support, and subscribe for more jaw-dropping true stories from the world's most extreme frontiers. Whether it's giant waves, high-stakes rescues, or close calls that defy belief. Until next time, stay safe, stay stoked, and respect the ocean.